So here's a question for everybody. This is something that popped up on my Twitter feed the other day. I wanted to share it with you. I saw a lot of these tweets, but what the heck is Joe Biden going to do about young people? Because there have been many groups of young people who are like, yep, we're not endorsing Joe Biden. So now it does mean something different for a group versus an individual. If an individual says it, that usually means I'm not voting for them. But if a group says it, that means they're not going to put literally dedicate time and resources and energy into trying to get that person elected. So it's a little bit different, and you could keep that in mind. But Democratic Socialists of America were like, we're not going to endorse Biden. And in their case, again, that means we're not going to put any effort, time, energy into canvassing for him or whatever. I'm sure some percentage of people who are part of Democratic Socialists will vote for Joe Biden, but they're saying we're not endorsing him. You have a bunch of Sunrise Movement people who are not endorsing him. Different branches of the Sunrise Movement have released that they're not endorsing him. You have these Students for Bernie organizations that are part of all these different universities and colleges all across the country. They're saying we're not endorsing him. So Joe Biden, make no mistake about it, he has a young person problem. And, as much as Bernie got crushed with old people in the primary, Biden got crushed with young people. I mean, just really just destroyed. We're talking about, and it's honestly, it's not even just millennials. It's Gen X too. It's Gen X. So you got 80% or more of millennials, and even if you do what's the demographic? It's 45 and under or 49 and under, something like that. Bernie's still 75% of the vote. So Joe Biden has a young person problem for sure. And what's he going to do? I don't know. I think that they're going to try to reach out more than maybe Hillary did in 2016, because I think they got very cocky and thought no matter what, they're going to get the young people, so they don't have to put too much time and effort and energy into getting young people. I think the Democratic establishment has learned that they can't be that weak as Hillary was in 2016 on that front, so Biden will make more of an effort, but how he makes the effort is obviously what matters. And, I told you guys, I think for all the so-called policy concessions he's giving Bernie. I say so-called because I don't believe him. I don't think he's going to do any of the things he's saying, but a lot of those things are silly anyway. I'm going to lower the Medicare age to 60. Hillary last time said 50 or 55, so these aren't concessions. But I think ultimately, at some point, Biden will more lean on the cultural stuff, and that's because that's their only out. What do corporate Democrats have? They can't go to where you are on economics, because they're not social democratic, because their donors don't want them to be. So where are they going to go to meet you? I'll go full Wokesville. And they meet you in Wokesville. They see? This is good, right? Is it good that I'm here? My name is Joe Biden, and I'm putting my gender pronouns in my Twitter bio. That's the kind of stuff that I think they're going to lean into. And is it going to work? I don't think it's going to work in this sense. He's not going to get large turnout among young people. But, and here's, I think, a more important part of the conversation. We genuinely might see an election where that doesn't matter, because Biden has expanded the Democratic coalition, and he has expanded it with older suburbanites who are drunk on CNN and MSNBC. So all those old people who are not totally goo-goo over Trump, they're like, sure, Biden. So he's increased turnout in many ways, but the increased turnout is really just the suburbanites. So can we see an election which is really just a totally new kind of electoral map where, young people just aren't as much part of any coalition here? I mean, yes, the young people will more break for the Democrat, of course, but in terms of overall turnout, I think turnout will not be that great among young people. But I think Joe Biden could win even without that. It's possible he wins without that. And that's why I'm so curious to see how this race unfolds, because I think that Trump is going to be super aggressive in classic Trump style and hit Biden over and over and over and over. And it could work. But it really is possible that if Biden does nothing, he could still hang on because he did nothing in the primary and he won. And it's also possible if he runs a "how dare you, sir" campaign, he could win. And his whole thing really can be like, I'm doing a return to normalcy. And that's the message that these older suburbanites want, because they've been brainwashed by CNN and MSNBC. That Trump's like, a Nazi or something, and you need a respectable person who's part of the old status quo in there. And it's possible that that ends up working. So what's interesting is Biden might be able to pull it off, even just embracing the exact kind of campaign that I personally can't stand. So I will be very interested to see how this plays out. I think that the wild cards will really be probably the biggest factors in the election. So namely the pandemic and the market and the jobs, because again, it's possible that since there's a crisis, people generally fall in line behind their leaders during a crisis and support them. That's one reaction to a crisis. But at a certain point, when it drags on for too long, people turn on their leaders. And they're like, when are you going to really change this stuff? Now we're really getting hurt here. So it depends on what point we are in that crisis unfolding of events. Where are we in like the timeline of the crisis? Is it still like we're still in back our leaders mode? Because Trump's approval rating went up during this. So are we still in that back our leader mode, or is it the opposite? And is it more like, this has been going on for too long, dog, we got to get rid of you? And how well does Trump do playing the leader where people think like, yeah, he's got strong leadership and you don't want to change leaders in the middle of the crisis. Like that's a thing that Bush ran on in 2004. Like I just started the Iraq War. You don't change the leader in the middle of the crisis. I have to see this through. That argument worked. So it's possible it works for the pandemic too. There's just too many factors, too much going on. If anybody who tells you they know what's going to happen, they don't. They don't. This election is not a lockup for Trump. This election is not a lockup for Biden. It's a 50-50 election right now, and I'm curious to see how the dynamics unfold. And as we see how they run their campaigns, then I'll be able to give you a little bit, better of my sense of it and who I think might win or not. Or maybe even on election day, I'll be like, I don't know, dog, flip a coin. But the dynamic will be interesting. There's no doubt that Biden has a young person problem. How will he manage that? How will he deal with that? Because there's no enthusiasm for Biden. There's no enthusiasm for Biden, period, but he was still winning. So, he could win without the enthusiasm. It's possible. But definitely a young person problem. And he earned it.